Hello all, this is Jason Ruff from the Promeneo Tech front-end development course. Today we're looking at our week 7 assignment where we are working with arrays. So as you can see my screen here on the right, this is my VS Code. And let's just jump right into it. This had some fun ones, so I want to make sure we cover as much as we can. The first challenge said create an array called ages that contains the following values. And then programmatically subtract the value of the first element from the value in the last element of the array. Do not use numbers to reference last element. So that's where we would just name the element and in the square brackets, put the element position. Of course, starting with 0 here. 9 is in the 1 position, 23 is in position 2, and so on. It looks like I decided to call this number array. And then there's our array there. So the first time we're going to go through it is just programmatically. We'll set a value for the first element. We'll create a variable for the last element. This one we use the code, the name of the array, our method of length, and then we subtract 1, and that should give us the last value here. So let's go over to our live server. Okay. And we'll go back to our JavaScript. Okay, so right now we have 93 is our last element. 3 is our first element. So if we ran this right, I would say we should get 90 there. Oh, negative 90, I apologize. Since we're subtracting the first or the second from the first. So that would be 3 minus 93 would give us negative 90. The next part of this is to add a new age to the array. Now, this is a good way to check if our programmatic method up top will continue to update as we add to the array. So for this one, we used our code to push the number 90. I don't know why I was in love with these big numbers here, but we had another age 90 push there. And then we ran the same function. So let's subtract the last element from the first element. And this time 3 minus 90 should give us negative 87. If we look over here, sure enough, that's what we got. So pretty confident that our function is working. The last part is question 1 was to create a loop to iterate through the array and calculate the average. So just thinking through what an average is, we're going to need to add up all of the numbers, all of the elements in number array, our const up here. And then we're going to have to divide them by the number of elements in the array. So we're going to do something pretty fun here. So let's create a function called find average. It's going to take in our number array up here. And then this is an important step here. Whenever we're going to add the elements of an array, we want to make sure that we start with 0. Or in this case, we want to make sure we start with 0. So created a variable called sum, set it equal to 0. That'll be where we start adding from. So if we wanted to start from 5 or start from 10, we could put that in here, but we're going to start from 0 here. So now we should work through the array one at a time. So our I++, starting at element 0, and we're going to add the numbers. So this is kind of our shorthand code for that sum. Add the number from the first element, and then continue to loop through as long as the I is less than the length of the element, or length of the array. And then we'll want to take that sum and just divide it by our array name dot length. And let's see what we got. We got 35.5 over there. I didn't do any backup on a calculator. We'll just say that sounds good. I did check it on a spreadsheet, and it looks good. So that's how we find that average there. And this problem sets a lot of base for the questions to come. So we may loop back and mention those. All right, created an array called names that contains the following values: Sam, Tommy, Tim, Sally, Buck, and Bob. Some really good names there. So now we're going to use a loop to iterate through the array and calculate the average number of letters per name. Now, this one is a little tricky, and I had to look up some documentation because I wasn't sure how to do this. It was a little easier with numbers, right? I can conceptualize adding 3 to 9 to 23. But taking a string that was a little different to me. But it turns out that JavaScript can tell what is in the elements, whether it's strings or numbers, and it'll take the kind of a similar structure to what we did up here, adding numbers, but it will know that since they're strings, we're looking for the number of um, digit or letters within that string. So we ran through a very similar structure here. We just created a function called name length. We're going to access those names. We set total length to 0, so that's kind of our starting 0 there. And then every time it iterates through a name, the names on the name length array, the dot length will produce the number of characters. Characters is the word I was looking for. So same thing, we should add that summation and then divide it by the length of the name. So theoretically, Sam should be 3. We should add 5 for Tommy and get 8. We should add 3 for Tim and get 11. Another 5 give us 16, 20, and 23. So we should get a sum of 23 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 should give us about 3.83 repeating. And we'll see that we got that over here. Let's see. Okay, this one, concatenate the names to, oh, sorry. This one here is to concatenate all the name, use a loop to iterate through the array again and concatenate all the names together, separated by spaces. That's a pretty simple one. That's just names join. So there we are all. Sam, Tommy, Tim, Sally, Bob. If we wanted to add an apostrophe between the names, we would add them in there. But since we just wanted a space, we could add the space there. If we didn't want the space and we would just wanted to mash them all together, we could delete that as well. How do you access the last element of array? We talked about this a little earlier. It's just the name of the array, the length method that will tell us how large it is, and then we want to go back one, and what is that last element there? We can also use the at method. This is how you access the first element in an array, and I stumbled across this at method on MDN documentation, which is a great resource. If you're just learning, go ahead and take 5 minutes and just read through that as you're working through stuff. The next problem is create a new array called names length, write a loop to iterate over the previously created names array, and add the length of each name to the new names length array. So we'll want to create an empty array called names length. And now we're going to want to push those names through. And we should get 5. Which we got there. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we are. So there's the names of each name here. So Sam at position 0 is 3. We have Tommy at position 1 here, 5 letters. Tim, 2 letters, and so on down the way. All right, so now we did this a little bit earlier, but now we want to calculate the sum of all the elements in the array. So we're going to use that same variable, let sum equal 0, iterate through it with our statement here, one at a time, and then we're just adding each new element as we go along. So we start at 0. We're going to add 3 for Tim, so we're at 3, and then we're going to evaluate Tommy and add 5 and go through each time. And then we just want to print that sum, and we'll see 23. This one was really fun, and this next one was pretty tricky, and then I think we'll wrap it up after this one, maybe do one more. Write a function that takes 2 parameters, word and n, as arguments, and then returns the word concatenated to itself n number of times. And the prompt here is if I pass in hello and 3, I would expect the function to return hello, 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 no spaces. So here's what we did. We created our function. We called it repeat word. We're taking in word and n. We're setting our result to 0 for now because we want to add the words together, and notice the no space there. We iterate through the array as long as I is less than n, and the result we add to the word, and then we just return the result. So here we did a couple different samples. So we used the hello 3 to just make sure we got that. Hello, hello, hello. Once we got that, I had to use my favorite phrase, boom. And then we wanted 6 of those because nothing's better than 6 booms in a row. And there we go. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see. The next one, I concatenate names. That one's pretty simple. We got to use our template literals here. This is great. Now that I've gotten used to this, a very, very great way to work within JavaScript. That one's pretty basic, so I'll skip over it. Oh, this is where we used a Boolean. So function sum over 100. So this is where we're going to take an array of numbers and return true if the sum of all the numbers in the array is greater than zero or is greater than 100. I went back up here and referenced some previous problems because we've done a couple now where we iterate through the array and add the numbers. And this time we're just going to ask it to return a simple Boolean. So return sum if it's greater than 100. This first one, 20, 30 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40, we should get 90 there, which should be false. We return a false. And this one should be over 100. Let's see, 40 plus 90 would give us 130 plus 23, 153. That's certainly higher than 100, and that's true. Oh, these are just so fun. I don't want to stop. All right, write a function that takes an array of numbers and returns the average of all the elements in the array. Okay, so this one is another challenging one. We're going to create a function. We called it array average, and then we're going to take in some array. We're starting at 0 again, and we're going to iterate through a lot in the same way that we did previously. And here's just some great shorthand notation again. We're just going to add the elements of some array as we iterate through. Then we take that sum, so that's our total value, and now we just define an average. We divide the sum divided by the number of entries there. And then here's my sample problem. 2 plus 4 gives us 6. Another 6 is 12. 17 divided by 4 should give us about 4.25. There we are. All right. And then write a function that takes two arrays of numbers, returns true if the average of the elements in the first array is greater than the average of the elements in the second array. So I referenced this problem where we kind of did this once already, but now instead of sum, we're comparing two variables. So I knew that we had to create two variables here. I called them array one and array two. Function is called bigger array because we want to see which one is bigger. And then here's our two variables, average one. So we need to compare the averages of array one to array two. So we just do this declaration twice here. And then we want to return average of one is greater than two. It should be true. So here we created two sample arrays to test our function. 2, 4, 6, that's certainly bigger than 1, 2, 3. So we would expect it to be true. And 1, 2, that is certainly smaller than 3, 4. So we'd expect these to be false. So we should see true and false over here. And then the final one was free. It said, just create a function that solves a problem. And I struggle with time management. And sometimes I'll have 40 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour and a half. And I'm always kind of looking for what to fill that time with. So I just did a very simple one down here. If I have more than an hour, that sounds like some good study time. If I have less than an hour, maybe I'll just chow down on some food. Now here's our three samples. We did one less than an hour, one more than an hour, one right at an hour. So let's see what we set. All right, so for 55, we should see time to eat because I don't have that much time. Time to eat. For 90, we got some time there, hour and a half, study time. Let's learn more JavaScript. And then 60, I wonder what this will do. Well, we didn't put an equals operator in there, so 60 minutes, that's study time too. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to uploading more in the future, and thank you.